I hope you guys are having a wonderful morning. I am so excited to share with you what I had going in my kitchen this week. This wasn't necessarily planned, but all the recipes I made this week were either ones that we have not made in quite a while or completely brand new ones. And I had so much fun just kind of cooking outside of my comfort zone. So I'm excited to share those recipes with you guys. I was on a sourdough bread baking hiatus for about 6 months, maybe even more than that. I have not made sourdough bread in quite a long time. So this fall I got my starter back from one of my sisters and I'm trying to get in a bread making routine. It is a little bit hard for me, but we do eat a lot of bread whenever I make it, which does help. I have a couple things I want to try, like freezing some bread dough balls, and just overall getting back into a sourdough bread routine. I do not write my own recipes for almost anything. A lot of times whenever I show myself making something, you guys ask about the recipe, and I, for the most part, have not written it. So this recipe is from my older sister at Farmhouse on Boone. I use her no-knead sourdough loaf recipe. It makes 2 of the most crusty, bubbly, yummy sourdough bowls, and we love having it. So that is definitely a huge motivator, just having the bread for getting in a good bread making routine. Because once you make your own sourdough bread, any kind of bread that's bought from the store, now bread from a bakery is a different story, but any kind of bread that is bought from the store just does not compare. In between my stretch and folds and letting my dough rest, I wanted to try and make some dairy-free hot chocolate. We have some oat milk that I have been wanting to use, and I don't know, I guess I was just feeling in the holiday spirit. I've never made hot chocolate before at home. It's just not something that I would usually do, but it sounded so tasty. So I just used oat milk, coconut milk, honey to sweeten it, some vanilla, and obviously some cocoa powder. And it was just such a tasty treat to have while the candle was going and my house smelled like a bakery. I love romanticizing little details about life. Days like this remind me that if I look for joy and sweetness in my everyday regular life, I can usually find it. Now, obviously, there are hard times, but when things are good, I can usually find sweetness and joy and things to celebrate in life. And that is just such an important lesson for me, especially as we head into winter. I usually get pretty just overall bummed during winter. And to be able to look forward to the cozy, find the joy, find the sweetness, that is a really important lesson for me to carry through the entire winter, all the way until around March or April when we start seeing some green again. That being said, there are a couple ways that I really want to embrace winter this year. One is to still try and go on walks and get outside daily. That sounds like it's going to be really hard. Saying daily makes me think it's going to be quite difficult, but that is definitely a goal. My sisters one year acted like winter didn't exist. They went to the park, they did all the things that they would have done, and they actually said it really helped. So that is really encouraging to me, to just still get outside regardless. Bundle up and just go outside. I know that would be really good for me, for my daughter, for my husband, for the whole family to get outside time regardless of the weather. And on the flip side, whenever it's time to come inside, I want to be able to embrace all the things that can happen inside the home that are so rewarding and fun and just joyful. I definitely want to try and bake more. I've got a few recipes that I'm really wanting to try and excited to share with you guys. We have some house projects we are really chomping at the bit to do, and I think that could be so fun to use winter to paint, to build stuff, to get down in my sewing room and sew more often. This is all making winter feel so much more doable and maybe even like something that I would really, really enjoy. I mentioned that there were a few firsts this week as far as what we were making. One was the hot chocolate, and the other one was this dinner. I keep a note on my phone of recipes that we love, our tried and trues, and then also just a collection of links for new recipes that I want to try. And this one has been hanging out on this note for a very long time. But the truth of the matter is that we hardly ever buy salmon. We buy most of our meat in bulk from my sister, and she sells pork and chicken and beef. But obviously we live in the Midwest and we do not have any salmon farms. So we very, very rarely buy fish. But my husband loves salmon. I decided that it'd be really fun to have a little in-home date night and cook up something that we don't normally make. This recipe came from The Pinch of Yum. She is one of my favorite food bloggers. I love following her recipes. And it was a recipe for the salmon itself, which was just 2 salmon fillets that were coated in taco seasoning and baked. And also this cucumber mango roasted corn salsa. As we inch into winter, it just always feels like such a treat to have such a fresh tasting meal. You just combine all these fresh ingredients and then sweeten it up a little bit, season it a little bit, and you have the tastiest salsa that just complemented the salmon so well. I derive a lot of joy out of putting on a podcast or some acoustic Christmas music and cooking a really tasty meal on a Friday night. Then we just light the candlesticks on our dinner table and enjoy sitting down, talking, and just having a meal together. It is such a treat and can be done so reasonably. Even if you get a fancier food from the grocery store, it's still much cheaper than going out on a date. And it just feels like such a wonderful treat. So if you are in a cooking rut or just feel like you need a date night but don't know how to do it, I definitely recommend trying an in-home date night with an easy, tasty recipe just like this one. Every time I try a new recipe, I learn something new about cooking, whether it's just how important cilantro is to me. If you were wondering why I was making 2 different salsas, it's because my husband is one of the unlucky people who taste cilantro like soap. But I used to just omit it from every recipe. And now I realize that it's really not that much harder for me to have cilantro and for him to not. And these are just little things that I learn every single time that I cook. And that's why I love trying new recipes and learning from people who have written recipes for a living and just are willing and able to share their knowledge with us and share their little tips. This is another recipe that you are seeing now from The Pinch of Yum. We have made it one other time. It is a short rib soup, and it is such a wonderful treat. For the most part, I find that beef recipes are written to just kind of be the cut of meat with a side. So I love whenever I can get a cut of beef that's not just ground beef and really make something that feels creative with it. That is so fun to me, and honestly just more my palate. I enjoy recipes like this a little more than I would have just enjoyed a cut of the short rib. So what you do is you put the short rib in the Instant Pot on saute it with some tomato paste, some gochujang sauce, garlic, ginger, some onions, and then you add the broth and cook the short rib on high pressure. And then once the short rib is fully cooked through, you open up the Instant Pot, put it back on saute mode just to keep it heated, and add in some ramen noodles. They cook pretty quickly with this method, and I had never used my Instant Pot aside from this recipe like this before, so that was also a really fun treat to just learn a new way to use a tool that we use all the time. This recipe is so good, so I definitely recommend you try it out. It makes good leftovers and is just really tasty. I hope this video was inspiring and encouraging to you as you take on your homemaking this week. I make videos like this every single week, so if this is what you're into, I would love to have you stick around and hit the subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching.